Welcome to the Go High Level Systems Thinking, where we're looking to build a 1,000+ Go High Level client acquisition system, a training designed to completely shift the way you approach growth. This isn't just some quick fix, flashy funnels, or surface level tactics. It's about building a freaking living system, one that consistently attracts, converts, and retains the right clients at scale. To succeed at this level, you must stop thinking in linear steps and start thinking in systems. Because when you understand the anatomy of a system, how each part connects, responds, and evolves, you move from guesswork to design, from short-term spikes to sustainable growth, from fragile to anti-fragile. Before we dive into the architecture of high-performing acquisition systems, we need to lay the foundation on what a system actually is, how it works, and how to see your business through this lens. The objective of this training: teach you how to build a scalable, resilient client acquisition system by thinking in systems, using structured inputs, intelligent processes, and feedback-driven optimization. Welcome to GHL Systems Thinking. Let's begin. So what is a system? Well, a system is a structured set of processes designed to take inputs, transform them, and produce specific outputs. Systems are all around us, not just because they're complex, but because they're organized with intention, from the educational system to the solar system to the nervous system to a city's transport network. Systems are how the world functions. At its core, every system contains 6 components: the function, the inputs, the processes, the outputs, the feedback, and then the environment, right? These components don't just apply to large abstract systems. They're the same principles that drive your client acquisition engine. And to make this real, let's ground it into something familiar: your heart. The heart, a living system, right? The heart is one of the most intelligent, resilient, and efficient systems in nature. It doesn't just pump blood, it adapts, responds, optimizes, and it performs second by second to keep the body alive. There you go. So you can hear the heart obviously is to circulate blood, delivering oxygen and nutrients to cells whilst removing waste. Its inputs is oxygenated blood from the lungs, nutrients from digestion, electrical signals from the brain. The processes is the cardiac cycle, a coordinated rhythm of contractions. The outputs is a continuous flow of blood to those specific systems and organs that use to keep you alive. The feedback, which is the nervous system, so it constantly monitors your heart rate, blood pressure, and oxygen demand. And then finally, there is the environment, which is the physical activity, emotional states, and sleep, hydration, and stress, which all influence the heart functions. Here's a quick example of how the environment, a dusty windstorm, affects the respiratory system. Because if you breathe dust in, you exchange oxygen with your lungs. You breathe out, you get a cough because of the physical irritation that you experience when dust and pathogens get into your nose and interfere with your breathing. Now, here is a pretty brutal and honest take. When I hear people say that their systems are broken, right, or they're not working, it's kind of bullshit. It's basically thrown around constantly. It's the default explanation when campaigns underperform, when leads go cold, or conversations or conversions drop off. But more often than not, it's not actually a systems problem at all. It's an expectations problem. Most people build a process, a sequence of actions they hope will lead to getting a client. And they assume that the presence of that process guarantees a result or a desired result. They have an outcome in mind: more clients, better conversations, higher revenue, but they don't get what they expect. They assume the system is at fault. That is not true, and it's a hard pill to swallow. Your system is not broken. In fact, it's doing exactly what it's been built to do. It is producing the outputs it was structurally designed for, based on the quality of your inputs, the design of your processes, and the responsiveness of your feedback loops. This is one of the most critical mindset shifts in systems thinking. Systems don't care what you want. They only care what they've been instructed to do. Let's compare this to AI. Who here has used ChatGPT and it's given you or Midjourney? Who here has put in a prompt and it's spat out some stupid stuff, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Well, AI is just a mirror. For instance, here's an example, right? Here's an example of a vague prompt into AI. Something like, write me a sales email that converts. You get a vague output. The email might be passable, but it might have structure. It might have structure, but it just feels generic. It's recycled. It's shallow, and it reflects the input it receives. Broad, contextless, and void of precision. Now, if you give it something more precise, right? So write me a cold email targeting specific agency owners who are frustrated with client churn, etc., etc., etc. Suddenly, the output becomes more usable, relevant, sharper, more persuasive, and the system didn't become more intelligent between prompts. The output changed because the input was upgraded. Now, imagine someone blames the AI for the bad results from the first prompt. They say this tool doesn't work, but it does work. It's just functioning exactly as it's meant to. It just wasn't given the right material to work with. And the problem isn't the system, it's with how it was used. This is exactly how client acquisition systems behave. They are not magical machines that convert effort into results. They are structured sequences of processes and stimuli designed to take in data, which is the human's attention and content, and produce an outcome, which are appointments, sales, and revenue. If you don't like the output, you don't blame the system. You look at how it was built, what you are feeding it, and what it's reacting to. What you built is what you got. Every system produces a result, right? The question is not whether it's working, but whether it's working towards the results you intended it to, or towards the results you unintentionally designed to create. If your client acquisition system is built around cheap, saturated lead lists, if your copy isn't aligned with how your market thinks, or if your follow-up processes is misaligned or inconsistent, the system will still produce a result. You get ghosted. You'll book unqualified calls. You waste your freaking time. But none of that is because the system is broken. It's because it's doing exactly what it was told to do. You may have wanted ideal clients, but you didn't build a system for ideal clients. The real problem is that the system wasn't designed for the results you expected, and your intention doesn't matter if the structure of the system can't deliver on them. Just like AI, it only responds to what it was given, not what you hoped it would understand. And here's another thing I hear a lot, right? I want a system that automates my business. Systems and automations, they're not the same thing. Automations is a deployment method, a tool for running your processes at scale. It can send emails, posts, run retargeting ads, trigger workflows, whatever. But none of these things are systems in themselves. They are simply ways to execute what the system has been designed to do. And you can build a perfectly functional acquisition system without a single automated tool if the process is clear, the targeting is right, and the messages land. You can run it manually and still produce consistent, high-quality results. Whilst on the other hand, if the system is poorly designed, automating it will only make the problem worse, and the wrong message will go out to the wrong people, but faster. Automation without systemization creates chaos on autopilot. Speed doesn't equal strategy. Just because it's running smoothly doesn't mean it's producing the right outcome. Treat your client acquisition system as the heartbeat of your business. Look, so your heart is the ultimate system, right? Like without a heart, you're not living. And it doesn't mean, like, it doesn't need the motivation. It doesn't need like reminder sequences to beat, right? It just beats, it just functions. Same thing, right? Every cell in your body depends on that flow of blood. Yet most of the time you don't even notice it's happening. That's how good that system works. They don't demand your attention. They just deliver consistent results. But what happens when the quality in inputs, right? The air that you breathe declines, right? Or the food that you ingest, right? You smoke a gazillion cigarettes in one day, right? You're stressed out at work. You aren't sleeping at all, right? When stress overwhelms the body's ability to regulate, the heart doesn't stop. It adapts. It works harder. It slows down. It strains. It still performs its function, but the quality of the output begins to suffer. The symptoms don't always show up in the heart itself. They appear downstream, and you start feeling tired. You lose mental clarity. Your body takes long to recover, and focus fades. Performance drops, and you slowly, quietly, the system becomes less and less effective, not because the heart stopped beating, but because what it's circulating can't sustain the body anymore. Your system is working, just not for you. This happens a lot, guys, right? It doesn't just stop because it's misaligned. It doesn't shut down because the messaging is off or all the leads are cold. It keeps going. It runs every day, processing what it's given, delivering results based on the structure and its inputs. But the thing is, you get results. You don't get ideal clients, you get tire kickers, you don't get booked calls, you get no-shows, you get no momentum, you get stagnation. A system is always working. The only question is whether it's working in the direction you want it to. Here's a favorite quote of mine. Garbage in, garbage out. It's a law. It's a law I abide by. You can't expect precision performance from sloppy inputs. The most beautifully structured funnels, the most advanced automations, the most clever copywriting. None of it matters if what's being fed into the system is misaligned, vague, or off market. You wouldn't feed the heart quality, poor quality blood and expect it to produce an optimal athletic performance. You wouldn't blame it, right? If you're giving it shit food, shit sleep, a lot of stress. The issue isn't the system, it's what the system's being asked to do. The heart teaches us something simple but profound. Even the best designed systems can't outpace a poor quality input. Like, there's no way you can make a shitty steak a 10 out of 10 Michelin star steak, full stop, because the quality of the food isn't good enough. That's why people and chefs spend so much money to acquire the best quality food out there for their Michelin star services. So what do? You diagnose the system. You don't blame the symptoms. You stop reacting. You stop tweaking random tactics. You stop throwing more effort at a structure that's already overcompensating, and instead you start diagnosing. You study the system. You get honest about what you're feeding it. You map the journey from attention to conversion, and you look at every single friction point along the way. You stop asking why the system is broken, and you start asking what exactly is it being told to do. And honestly, if you can do this, guys, you can redesign the input, you can rebuild the processes, and you can reshape the way it responds to feedback and adapt to its environment. You can stop trying to fix the symptoms and start correcting the source. And when you do that, when you build the systems with intentionality and precision, something powerful happens. You stop relying on luck. You stop swinging wildly. And you start producing results that feel inevitable, not accidental. That's the shift from chaos to clarity, from reaction to design, and from burnout to predictability. And once you have predictability, you have control. And once you have control, you have freedom. And once you have freedom, you can scale, not by working harder, but by building better. And that's the outcome of real systems thinking. Not hacks, not hope, just structure, purpose, and performance. Beating like a heart that never misses. All right, focus in. Design your macro client acquisition systems. If you want to acquire clients consistently, at scale, without relying on random bursts of luck, like, oh man, I got a client, you need more persuasive copy or a clever funnel, right? These things are useful, but they're tools, not the foundation. Like, you know, like this is cool, right? But like, nah. You don't want to just land clients like, oh, thank God I have a client. No, you want to be like, okay, cool. I've only gotten these amount of clients. What can I do to improve it? How can I build my macro system out? The real engine behind consistent client acquisition is a system, a macro level system, one that operates with intention, structure, and feedback. Humans in your niche, followed by the stimuli chain via SOPs or automations, and humans results in clients, right? And then feedback, which is seen as metrics. All of this operates within an ever-changing context. The market. Let's break this down. You begin with a human, you or someone else. Someone in your niche, potentially in need of what you offer. And to reach them and move them to action, you deploy a sequence of stimuli, messages, offers, content, and interactions delivered through a mix of standard operating procedures, tools, and automations. When this chain is executed effectively, it produces a client, along with valuable feedback data that tells you how well the system performed. All of this happens with an ever-evolving environment, influenced by market trends, platform dynamics, competition, and buyer behaviors. To build and optimize this kind of system, you need to understand its core components. There are 6 foundational elements. The inputs, which is the raw material you feed your system, including audiences, content, and resources. The processes, which is the sequences and methods you use to move leads through the pipeline. Outputs, which is the measurable results your system actually produces, such as booked calls, conversions, or revenue. Feedback, which is the data and insights that guide continuous improvement. Environment, which is the external conditions and context that influence how the system performs. And then function, which is the specific purpose the system is designed to fulfill within your business. Each of these components play a vital role. Without quality inputs, your systems won't produce desirable outputs. Without strong processes, your messaging won't land. And without feedback, you'll have no freaking idea what's working. And without a clear understanding of the environment and the system's function, you'll just find yourself constantly reacting instead of intentionally designing. Now let's define these key components of client acquisition systems. Inputs, so the system's raw materials. If your client acquisition system isn't working, the problem likely isn't the process, it's the inputs. The inputs are the origin of every result. They are the human assets, traffic, targeting, and creative energy you feed into the acquisition engine. And just like in any machine, if you start with poor quality fuel, you can't be surprised when the engine stalls. In systems thinking, inputs are non-negotiable, and in $100 million leads, Alex Hormozi echoes the exact principles. The first 2 stages of the core 4, which is get attention and capture leads, are all about the front-end quality of your inputs. And if your content is vague, your ads hooks are weak, or your outreach list is misaligned, your entire downstream pipeline suffers. And Hormozi doesn't call it inputs, but his entire strategy starts with them. Garbage in, garbage out. Isn't a saying, it's a law. You could have the best sales script in the world and the most persuasive funnel or a world-class closer, but if the person on the other end was never the right fit to begin with, you're just polishing a brick. Your inputs must be built for the right person. This is where most people break the system. They try to cast a wide net thinking that more volume equates to more results, and they create content for anyone starting a business, run ads for people who are looking to grow, or build a lead magnet that says 10 tips to get more clients. The problem is these inputs attract the wrong audience, or you're not specific enough with the types of audience that you want to attract. They pull in broke, burned out, or figuring out people who can't afford your service, can't afford to invest, don't have the time, or ghost you when it's time to make a decision, and your calendar fills up, but your business doesn't grow, and that's the cost of poorly calibrated inputs. The inputs Well, the way to fix this is to build inputs for high-functioning, high-intent buyers. Speak to successful people with a specific pain-inducing problem, and you're not trying to help everyone. You're helping someone who is already winning, but hitting a ceiling. And that ceiling could be their time, could be their team, could be their lead flow, could be their tech stack, or complexity. But they want more, and they're ready to move. This is the person Hormozy is speaking to when he writes ads like, hey, if you're running a $3 million coaching business and it's stuck under $250K a month because your lead flow depends on Instagram, here's how to fix it. Do you know how specific that is? It feels like they're only speaking to the types of people with that specific problem that he knows how to solve. How much do you think someone's going to pay for that solution? Quite a lot of money. But if you're selling just like, oh, here's my GoHighLevel SaaS, like for $97 a month, everyone and their freaking mom does that. What differentiates you? You need to solve a specific problem. Like, I know it's scary. Besides that, you need to have the validity in yourself that you know how to do it for yourself and other people, but also the proof that you are known and you know what you're talking about. See how specific that is. It filters out low quality people, and that's not getting attention. That's getting the right attention from the right type of people, which is what real inputs are. What inputs look like in practice? We have the core 4, which is here. You have the people who you know, people who you don't know, one-to-one, private, and one-to-many, public. People who you know and one-to-one private is warm outreach. This tends to be the easiest way to close as many people as you can. Use your network, use your connections. It's how I've seen people get their first few clients, and it's how I've seen people scale to like 100 plus SaaS clients just because they know people and they have a great product. Cold outreach, people who don't know you, and one-to-one private. Cold calling, cold DMs. This is how I started out. If you don't have a good network or no one to sell to, you start with this. And if you have no money, you start with this. People who know you and one-to-many, you post free content. It's free. You just have to post really good stuff at scale. And then lastly, people who you don't know, in one-to-many, you run paid ads. We do all 4. And it's just about doing all 4 better and more. That's it. So here's how it maps out. If you want to do warm outreach, right, you could do a database reactivation script. So you can send everyone SMS and email. You can call up everyone that you know or who's on your list, who's opted in. You can send them personalized Loom walkthroughs. You can send them mini case studies. You can invite them to low friction strategy calls. Great ways to get your foot in the door. Or even ask how they're doing, send them something for free. Same thing with cold outreach, right? You have a curated list of niche decision makers. Cold email, cold DM. You give them micro assets, personalized intro lines and angle variations. And then you also give a clear call to action on what the next steps are with moving forward with you. Content inputs, so organic posts, obviously short form, long form side of things. There's Twitter, which is written, blogs, etc. You have a good call to action or a good lead magnet. So if it was in content, you'd put this in the headline saying, hey, DM me for the systems if you want the lead magnet. Be consistent because, man, this truly is the long game. You can build up your authority and your inputs and your bulletproof proof because you have results and frameworks and just value. Paid ads, so create scroll-stopping ad copy written to a singular buyer persona. Funnel built to filter segment cold traffic, and then short-form video educating, not selling. Proof backed by offer, make it crystal clear, and then retargeting with testimonials, case studies, and objection killers. These inputs are how you power each step of the core 4. Get attention, nurture, capture, nurture, convert. Same thing with GoHighLevel. So here's some advanced stuff, which is scaling without you. So once you've figured out how to do this yourself before outsourcing it, right? You then get lead getters. So clients can get referrals, right? So you can build an affiliate pool or a referral pool, right? So you give them a reason for them to start referring you clients. Affiliates, right? So you can distributed inputs, basically give them training, give them assets to affiliate your services. Employees, right? You can train CSMs to ask for referrals, affiliates, etc. Agencies, which can do done-for-you stuff like cold email, media buying, content reproduction, all great ways to amplify the inputs that you need to do to get the outputs which you want. Before we get to outputs, though, we have the processes, which is the engine that moves people into becoming clients. If inputs are raw materials of your client acquisition systems, then processes are the engine that transform this material into outcomes. This is the layer where potential energy becomes kinetic and where attention turns into action, interest into engagement, and leads into clients. Without clearly defined processes, even the best leads stall out. Your system doesn't just need more traffic or volume, it needs more motion. And a process is not a one-off action, it is structured, repeatable sequences of stimulus, messages, offers, call to actions, or proof assets deployed in a specific order to guide a prospect through a series of micro decisions. Think of a client journey as a chain reaction. Scroll, pause, click, read, reply, book, show up, buy. Each of these steps is a behavior triggered by a design stimulus. And to turn that into a system, this is the execution layer Hormozi emphasizes in $100 million leads. It isn't just about having content or offers. It's about deploying them in the right order with precision. It's not enough to get attention. You need to know what exactly happens after and what happens after that. So here's an example of some of the processes that we have here in this training. Warm outreach. So your prospects are already, someone who know you, who like you. They've either worked with you before, engaged with your content, or been in the pipeline. And the process here is about reactivating interest and moving them back into conversations. So, hey, are you still working on that problem? From there, you could send a short Loom video, refining what your actual offer is, call to action to jump on a call with you. These touch points are deliberate sequence designed to rebuild interest, not overwhelm. Whether done manually or triggered through the CRM, the goal is to create a simple path from inactive lead to booked call. This is the flow. Cold outreach. Here's a fun fact. 50% of Gym Launch's business, which is Alex Hormozi's essentially course and coaching business for gyms, sold 66% of the equity for $46 million. The revenue was attributed to cold calling, which booked into podcasts, which then turned into potential sales calls. And this was 50% of their monthly recurring revenue. They were doing millions a month. Cold outreach is about building trust from scratch. These prospects have never heard of you, which means your process needs to lead with clarity, relevance, and credibility. Start with a well-targeted lead list. Here's an example of what you can do. Here are the inputs, stimuluses, delivery, and the next steps for those actions. We obviously have these trainings in way more depth, which we'll go through in the later videos. So keep an eye out for those videos. Content. Content posting is not a process until it leads somewhere. Too often people post valuable insights or frameworks and stop there. But without a designed flow from post to DM to call, you're just creating noise. A strong content process begins with a weekly schedule and a clear message focused on one specific problem. You post with a scroll-stopping hook, follow with belief-shifting insights, and end with a direct call to action to gain access to your lead magnet or whatever it is. Once someone responds, you continue the process with a qualifying message followed by a lead magnet or video, and then an invite to speak. La 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 la. Process, inputs, stimuli, delivery, next actions, and then paid ads. Generates attention fast, but if the backend isn't dialed in, then you just become a money sink. The process begins with the ad creative itself. It needs to speak to a specific person with a specific problem and a clear measurable outcome. That ad leads to a segmentation quiz or landing page that qualifies the traffic. From there, the lead either books directly or is enrolled in a nurture sequence, automated emails, retargeting, or video walkthroughs. Process, input, stimuli, delivery, next actions. Is that clear, guys? So those are the inputs we just talked about, what you need to do, and these are the processes that gives a quick overview of what it looks like. Overwhelming, because there's a lot of freaking things that you can do, so don't worry. I have an example. Micro action breakdown for paid ads, Facebook ad opt-ins, right? So there's the throughput, bottleneck, yield, and then these are all the steps from hook to offer to call to action to opt-in to calling the leads to email, SMS retargeting to confirming the email to getting on the call to showing up to setting the agenda, agenda, qualified, discovery, demo, book the strategy call if they need a second call, dig into pain, pitch price, handle objections, payment, term negotiations, and financing and payments. Pretty sick. And in each of these steps, I literally write down what are the step-by-step guides that they have to do to get to the point of freaking paying you money. 30 steps, guys. It's long and extensive. That's why people can spend hundreds and thousands of dollars a freaking month on ads. So read it very carefully. It's a resource. You'll find it in the description section. Outputs. The system's observable results. Outputs are the measurable results that come out of your system. They are the success signals. They include things like booked calls, new clients, positive replies, warm leads, or revenue events. They show you whether your system is working, but they are not always the full story. When outputs are strong, it's a sign that your inputs and processes are aligned. When they dip, it's a cue to investigate. It's important not to judge outputs emotionally. Instead, treat them as a performance marker. Don't jump to conclusions. Trace the results back from the system to find the weak links. This makes outputs more than results. They become indicators of health and system health. Feedback. Feedback is the mechanism that allows your system to learn, adapt, and improve over time. It connects your outputs back to your inputs and processes. Without it, your system flies blind. With it, you're able to evolve and optimize with intention. Feedback comes in the form of metrics, conversion rates, email open rates, cost per acquisition, show rates, churn, lifetime value, CSAT scores, NPS scores, but these numbers don't help unless they're interpreted. Feedback isn't just data, it's insights. It's about finding meaning in the metrics and using that meaning to adjust the system. With the right feedback loops, you're no longer guessing what works. Your system tells you. Your job becomes responding intelligently, designing forward. Environment. This is the external forces that shape the system. You have no control over this. This operates in a vacuum. Every system, every client acquisition engine exists inside a larger environment, and the broader market and platform conditions that affects how the system performs. And the environment includes both static and variable environments, variable elements, right? So static elements include human psychology, attention span, time zones, or buyer behaviors. They don't shift much, and they can be designed around with long-term thinking. Variable elements, however, change regularly. So platforms, algorithms, competitive pressure, regulations, pricing, or the performance of your internal setting team. The key skill here is adaptability. When the environment changes, and it always will, your system must be capable of recalibrating. Smart operators, by the way, stay aware of these shifts and build resilient systems that flex when needed instead of breaking under pressure. They're anti-fragile. Function, the purpose that anchors the system. The final and arguably most important component of any system is its function, right? This is the reason it exists. Curious. The job is designed to do. Systems without defined functions drift. They create noise instead of results. Function is what gives the systems direction and helps you evaluate whether it's doing what it's meant to do. You might build a system that generates 10 sales calls per week, or to cold leads into warm conversions over 30 days, or close high-ticket clients through inbound educational content. Each of these functions require a different architect, a different input, a different process, and a different output. When function is clear, design becomes strategic. You know what to measure, you know what success looks like, and most importantly, you know what doesn't belong. Because anything that doesn't serve the function is just friction. And then last but not least, we have the actual macro to micro client acquisition systems, right? Because so that's the main system, the big system. Focus. This is the big system, right? It's not just one giant machine. It's a series of smaller connected systems working together in sequence. And each of these systems is responsible for moving a lead through a specific transition from unaware to aware, from curious to committed, from interested to enrolled. So let's break down the 6 subsystems and the key levers you can pull to optimize each one. Latent condition to attention, right? This is the first step. This is the beginning of the journey. Your prospect isn't actively searching for a solution. They're feeling the strain of persistent friction. Maybe they've stretched thin by founder-led sales, struggling with lead inconsistencies, or quietly overwhelmed by operations. These are unspoken internal bottlenecks that are ripe for disruption. Your system's job here is to interrupt that tolerated discomfort with a sharp, specific stimulus that might be a cold DM that mirrors their exact frustration, a high signal posts that names their reality, or an ad that cuts through with immediate emotional resonance. They're not trying to sell, you're just trying to be seen. Once you're noticed, right? People take attention, people see your hook, they're like, oh, what's this about? You build momentum. Interest is not a given, it must be earned. This is why curiosity turns into conversations. This stage is powered by relevance. Your content, your messages, and assets should make the prospect feel like you're already in their world. They shouldn't have to get to know you. They should feel like you already get them, right? This is done through short form educational proof, follow-up micro assets that deepen the problem and preview the solution, right? Maybe a training video, or the VSL, or a Loom, or something explaining what it is that you can do for them. This is either prior to them opting in, so maybe they're watching content, or they saw an ad online, or this is afterwards where they've signed up. Interest appointment. So now the prospect is nodding, engaged, curious. The goal here is commitment, not conversion. This transitions lives and dies on friction. The more hoops they have to jump through, the faster you lose them, making booking fast, obvious, and logical. Your booking call to action should feel like a service, not a sales move. It's not jump on a call with me. It's want me to break this down for you in 10 minutes. And then when you book the appointment is a promise, but it's fragile. Your prob is to protect it. This system is about creating accountability and anticipation. It's where you manage human nature. Forgetfulness, hesitation, and emotional drop-off. Your reminders, pre-call content, and tone all matter here. This is huge. Show rate is such a big problem. You do all this effort to book them in, and then they don't show? Wow, that's annoying. Yeah. Show up, turned into prime prospects. So even if they show up, this is the moment of truth. They're present. They're listening. Now your job isn't to sell, it's to surface. You must use intelligent questioning, structured discovery, and context building to help them articulate their real problem. When done right, they feel seen and start to sell themselves on fixing it. Pitching too early kills trust, and instead you create clarity and emotional buy-in. Walk me through what's happening now and what happens if it doesn't change. What's the biggest cost of staying the same another 90 days? Then, once you have that, you have a prime prospect and turn into a closed client. This is transitioning from exploration to invitation. This offer must be clear, aligned, and de-risked, not just in price, but in perceived effort. This is where you frame the opportunity, offer a clean next step, and remove hesitation. You're not convincing, you're confirming. So this is a sequential pass from stranger need to client. It starts with the latent conditions, which is the prospect is unaware of your offer, but their current frustrations, inefficiency, or growth goals make them a perfect candidate. The attention, which is a stimulus that grabs their awareness, stimulus like that. The interest, which is, they express curiosity, they're interested, they have an intent by either clicking, replying, or even booking themselves in for a call. The appointment, which is they commit to a conversation by booking a call. The show up, which is they honor the appointment and they show up. The prime prospect is, they've consumed some content, they've watched your pre-call material, they've read through some information, they've seen your stuff. Thorough, thoughtful conversations, qualifications, and value delivery. They become open and aligned and ready. Closed deal, which is the sale is made and they are new client ready to be onboarded. Each of these transitions is engineered, not assumed. If you aren't converting, it's because one of these subsystems are broken, missing, or poorly optimized. The key is to identify where the drop-off happens and rebuild the process that comes before it. This is what it looks like in its entirety. Human, this is the macro system, which is the processes and the subsystems and the SOPs and the humans that perform these subsystem jobs, which is latent conditions, attention, interest, appointments, show, prime prospects, close deals, which turn into clients, which then gives us feedback on the performance of this acquisition system. That's how you make infinite money. Now, how do I actually relate these theoretical topics into real life, actual tangible things? First of all, we have deconstructing the actual subsystem itself. To truly scale your client acquisition system, you must go beyond theory and view the entire process as a chain of engineered subsystems. Each subsystem handles one core transition, moving a prospect from one psychological and behavioral state to the next. This deconstruction isn't just about optimization. It's about building with clarity. When you understand which system controls which stage of the client journey, you can isolate, test, and improve with precision rather than guessing where things break. Lead gen, lead nurture, appointment booking, sales conversion, priming, appointment show. That's how it works. So here are examples, for lead generation. At this stage, your prospects aren't looking for GoHighLevel. They don't give a shit about it. They're not Googling white label SaaS or automated CRM. They're stuck in a day-to-day problem, manual follow-ups, missed appointments, leaky pipelines, disconnected tools. They don't have AI, and they've normalized the chaos. Your job isn't to sell software, it's to surface the pain they didn't realize was solvable. So the purpose would be to create a sharp pattern interruption. Show them a version of the reality they can't unsee. They're not problem aware, they're just frustrated. They've accepted inefficiencies, or they're just not seeking solutions. Bottlenecks are messaging, broad copy, or cold outreach feels too pitchy. Fix is to speak in situations, not just industries. So be hyper-focused in the language that mirrors their day-to-day tension and their problems. Metrics include this, and real-life analogies are, for instance, if, this isn't shouting at a crowd, it's quietly tapping someone on the shoulder and describing a problem they didn't know had a name, like pointing out a rug that just they keep tripping over, They've gotten so used to it, but now that you mentioned it, they just can't ignore it. Lead nurturing, turning that attention into interest. Once you've caught their attention, your next job is to hold it and guide it. Nurturing is to bridge between curiosity and commitment. It's not about dumping content, it's about sequencing trust. Most leads don't convert because they don't know what happens next, or or why you're different. Good nurturing creates micro wins, builds familiarity, and positions your systems as the natural next step. Turn a moment of recognition into an active signal of interest. The click, the opt-in, the tell me more. Here are some market conditions. Here are some common bottlenecks. A fix, nurture through small, high signal touchpoints, create assets that deliver quick clarity or value, not just information. And then examples include, 3-minute teardowns, 2-minute videos, quick guides, retargeting ads, etc., etc., etc. Here's an example of a real-life analogy, This is going on a second or third date. You're not proposing, you're just showing up, you listen, you follow through, and you understand their world. You don't push, but you guide. Every touch point should say, you're in the right place, let me show you more. Then you book the appointment. Now that the lead is interested, the next step is to make it easy for them to take the next leap. Book an appointment is the first solid yes from a lead. but they'll bail if the process is too complicated. This stage needs to reduce friction, providing clarity and making the process as simple and seamless as possible. Your goal is to smoothly transition from interest to commitment, where they say, yes, I'll take the next step. And it's their decision, not yours. You can help them, guide them, but it's their decision to make the commitment to booking the call and showing up. Turn a spark of interest into a committed step. The booked call. This is the first real yes in the sales journey. Your job is to make their yeses effortless and natural. So here's some marketing conditions. They reply to an ad, click the DM, etc., etc. Common bottlenecks is, the booking link feels cold and there's no human touch. The timing isn't urgent, or they forget and they ghost and they never show up. The fix here is to make bookings casual, clear, and fast. And the examples include some of these types of things. And the metrics to track are these types of things, right? So lead to book rate, time from opt-in, booking form, drop-off rates, no-show rates, reminder engagement rates, call attendees rate. Real-life analogies include this, and so forth, right? You're inviting someone for a coffee. That's it. Appointment to show up rate. This is the most annoying thing, in my opinion, right? The appointment's booked, but now you need them to show up, and this stage is about ensuring the lead doesn't forget or bail last minute. Reminders, incentives, and clear communication to help them from appointment schedule to ready to talk, and the goal is to get them to take action, show up on time, and be prepared for the conversation. The purpose. The goal here is to ensure that the prospect actually shows up for the scheduled appointment, turning commitment into action, and this is where leads move from passive to active engagement. Getting them on the call is the first step towards converting them into clients. Marketing conditions, common bottlenecks, fixes, and examples that you can use. Great ones, confirmation emails. If they need to reschedule, then fine. Call them an hour before the appointment and 24 hours before the appointment to remind them about it. Send them written documents, send them videos, send them anything that will help them make a decision faster. And then finally, showed appointments, turning them into prime prospects. Now that they've showed and engaged, it's time to prime them for the close. This is where you need to continue building rapport, solidify their desire to move forward, and you've made a first positive impression, but the prospect needs to be reassured that you're the solution that they've been looking for, and this stage is about addressing concerns, reinforcing value, and positioning your offers as the next clear step. The purpose? You want to take someone that's shown up into a prime prospect. You want them to pull out their credit card and sign up for your highest ticket offer. Easy peasy. The market conditions, right? They've attended, they showed up. Common bottlenecks is they feel overwhelmed. They need to speak to their client, their mom, their aunt, their dog. They lack clarity. They're fearful, and you miss the opportunity to reinforce urgency and benefits. Focus on solidifying trust and excitement by reinforcing the value of your solution, addressing objections directly. Examples include this. Metrics include this. And real-life analogies are like going on a date. You've had the initial conversation. Now it's about making sure they're comfortable, confident, and excited to take the next step. You're not rushing them, but you're showing them that this is the right decision, and you want them to feel like the next step is inevitable, not forced. Prime prospect to close deal. This is the sweetest bit, right? So this is where you guide the prospect to make a commitment. They're ready, but they need clarity, reassurance, and a strong call to action. Your job is to handle objections, simplify the decision-making process, and confidently ask for the commitment. A smooth transition from a prime prospect to a closed deal means they're confident in their choice and excited to get started with you. Purpose. The goal here is to transform a prime prospect into a paying client. This is where you address final concerns, reinforce value, and guide them confidently towards making a commitment, and you want them to feel clear, excited, and ready to sign on the dotted line. Market conditions, common bottlenecks, and then fixes and examples, and then metrics to track. Here's some real life analogies, right? So this is like coaching. This is like a coach guiding a player to take the game-winning shot. The player is confident, ready, and knows the right play, but just needs the final push. And you're reassuring them that this is the moment, showing them how they're equipped to win, and helping them take action towards victory. So, in conclusion, systems that rely on design. Thank you so much for staying with me and staying attentive. You now understand what separates chaotic, fragile acquisition efforts from scalable, predictable systems: structure, intentionality, and feedback. The truth is, your business already has a system, whether you built it consciously or not. It's producing results every single day based on the quality of your inputs, the logic of your processes, and the clarity of its function. If you're not getting what you want, it's not because your systems are broken, because it's doing exactly what it was set up to do. This is the power of systems thinking. It removes emotionality from your outcomes and replaces it with precision. You no longer have to guess why something isn't working. You can trace it, diagnose it, redesign it. From attention to interest, from booked call to closed deal, every transition is an engineered shift. And once you break the acquisition journey into these modular subsystems, you gain control. You can isolate friction, measure throughput, optimize latency, and scale yield. You stop reacting to symptoms and you start shaping outcomes. So the question is now, what systems did you build? And what systems do you actually want? Because once you know the answer, you don't have to hustle harder. You just have to rebuild it smarter. Welcome to GHL Systems Thinking, where acquisition is engineered, not improvised. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video valuable. Bye for now.